Hello there friends and welcome. This video is all about patch 1.03 which was recently released for Elden Ring and is pretty much the first of the patches with buffs and nerfs of course. I decided to showcase the most important ones here. So without further ado, let's get started first with the so-called nerfs, as I think they're the ones people are often interested and even scared of. First we have a nerf to the Hoarfrost Stomp Ash of War. It now deals reduced damage and also has increased casting time. Now Hoarfrost Stomp was probably the most overpowered of the skills in the game. It combined huge area of effect, great damage, stagger and fast casting time, meaning you could spam it pretty fast too. Now after the patch, you can certainly see the difference in casting time and damage too, but honestly it still feels like a very powerful skill because of how easy it is to basically stun lock some enemies with it. The range is still good and the casting time is pretty decent as well. So I'd say it's still a pretty powerful skill even post the nerf. Second we have a Bloody Slash nerf, so increased Ash of War, Bloody Slash's self-inflict damage while slightly lowering the damage and increasing the cast time. I'd say the main difference now is the self-inflicted damage upon casting Bloody Slash. Here's how it was before, and here's how it is post-patch 1.03. Certainly a noticeable increase. But when it comes to casting time and damage, they're still pretty good. Even against bosses, the damage is still pretty good, and this is just a level 25 character. But you certainly have to be more careful when it comes to managing your hit point cost. Now we have of course a nerf to the Sword of Night and Flame. I guess most people saw this one coming because of how powerful the weapon was overall. And basically it now deals less damage on both of its skills. Most importantly around 30% for the Comet Azure skill and around 20 to 22% for the Flame ability. It certainly will not be as powerful as before when it comes to one-shotting enemies, especially the faster enemies, because the Flame ability can be pretty slow to cast. We also have a nerf to Barricade Shield, which does not last as long now and also has increased FP consumption on casting. And here's how Barricade Shield worked before. So it now costs 12 FP to cast, and the duration is also now 5 seconds instead of 15. You can notice because when your shield stops glowing, that's when the duration has also worn off. I'd say the FP increase isn't that troublesome, because as a shield character with Barricade Shield, you won't be taking much damage, so you can always rely on your FP flasks to restore your FP. The biggest difference comes when fighting bosses, because you'll have to pay more attention to your Barricade Shield uses. But it's just a matter of activating it more, which isn't that hard to do. You certainly still have enough duration and enough castings of it, and remember, whenever you activate the skill, you already block with your shield, so there's no waste with casting time or anything like that. It's really just a matter of properly managing your activations more to make up for the lower duration. Last but not least, we also have a nerf to the Mimic tier summon, so decrease the damage of spirits summoned and also change the spirit's behavior pattern. Your Mimic tier summon now, it doesn't really do as much damage. Also, it reacts more as if a player, so it's not as spammy with its attacks and abilities. So it does try to back up and dodge a bit instead of just going all out on attacking. And I'm sure some have also noticed that the Mimic's hit points seem to have been decreased as well, so it won't be as tanky. Now let us talk about the buffs at last. After all, it's not just about nerfing. So to go with the Barricade Shield nerf, we also have an overall increase in the guard boost of most of the powerful shields. For example, my Eclipse Crest Great Shield now has 69 instead of the 65 it had before, at the same level of upgrade plus 7. The Gilded Great Shield has 69 guard boost, even at the very start now, instead of just 67. If you've already watched my shield build guide, linked to the side here, then you already know what guard boost does. Basically, the higher your guard boost, the less stamina you'll have to spend whenever blocking an enemy's attacks. And with Barricade Shield, so long as your shield has at least 65 guard boost, you can achieve 100 for no stamina lost on blocking at all. While you can still manage your Barricade Shield ability just fine even after the nerf, remember that because of the increase in guard boost, you can also use the Great Shield Talisman to increase the guard boost of your shields, so that it won't take as much stamina when it comes to blocking enemy attacks if you don't properly activate your Barricade Shield. So see, not always lost when it comes to shields and Barricade Shield. And depending on how powerful your shield's guard boost is, a shield like the Fingerprint Stone Shield can eventually achieve 100 guard boost by just upgrading it and using the Great Shield Talisman even without Barricade Shield. And you can also cast the Scholar Shield spell to highly increase your guard boost, especially after this buff, so that your block attempts barely cost any stamina at all. Just look at that. We can regenerate our stamina just after taking the hit, even without Barricade Shield. And this shield is not fully upgraded, not even half the way there. Scholar shields also last for a single minute, so pretty effective. Now as far as buffs, we also have quite a lot of buffs to sorceries. So less FP cost and more damage for Glintstone, Comet Shard, Comet and Night Comet. Higher damage to Gravity Well, Collapsing Stars and Crystal Barrage. Less FP cost for quite a lot of spells here, Carrion Piercer being one of my favorites. And lastly, increased range and speed for Great Glintstone Shard. Overall, I think the changes that are going to matter the most are for Comet and also Great Glintstone Shard. Great Glintstone Shard used to have somewhat slow casting speed and disappointing range. Now we can hit enemies from decently far away. Ideally, you want to use Great Glintstone Shard for the enemies that get one shot by it, but still have some hit points left to the normal Glintstone Pebble. The enemy here, for example, won't be one shot by my Pebble. On the other hand, it dies from a Comet. For bosses, I don't think there's going to be much changes because, you know, you'd much rather just be casting Comet Azure, which can one-shot pretty much all of the bosses in the game. And this super powerful spell is still at full power. So you want to use Pebble for the low FP cost and the decent damage, but on the other hand, if you cannot one-shot the enemy with Pebble, then you might consider trying Great Shard or also Comet. Lastly, for another very interesting buff, Uplifting Aromatic now has increased duration for 10 more seconds. This has always been one of the best consumables in the game, because it not only increases your damage, but also grants you a protective barrier that pretty much reduces almost all of the damage you take from a single hit. As you can see, my damage negation here has shot to 92. And now this powerful buff lasts for 40 seconds instead of 13, perfect for boss runs. Now as far as the cryptic other enemy and weapon balance changes, there's not much we can do about it. For those that have played the Soul series, they know a lot of changes are pretty much hidden, just like this. They don't really go into length as to what they're actually changing. What I can tell you is that for another important weapon, the Moonveil Katana, its special ability now deals little poise damage, so you won't be able to stun lock bosses as often with it as before. Last but not least, we have a pretty important quality of life upgrade, so added a function to record an icon and the name of an NPC on the map when you encounter them. This is pretty huge in my opinion, especially for merchants, so now, whenever you meet a merchant, you get this little icon added to your world map, so Nomadic Merchant here, the Isolated Merchant here, and so on. And this will even work for NPCs as well, such as Kenneth Haith here, and White Mask. The best part is, if they are close to a Grace or at a Grace site, then whenever you select a Grace, you get to see all of the NPCs. And this will also work for merchants that are at a Grace. So overall, a very welcome quality of life change. Here's hoping we get more on future patches. Alright, so this was it for my most important changes when it comes to patch 1.03. I hope this video was useful to you, and if it was, please remember to support the channel if you can by liking, subscribing and even becoming a member. Please be sure to comment down below your thoughts on this new patch, and what's to come too. Thank you for watching and see you next time, friends.